Welcome back, everybody. You're probably wondering right about now why I'm like all of a sudden have something to say. I mentioned this in the first video, and then I'll talk about that before I talk about this movie. I just all of a sudden just got a wild hair at my butt and just decided to start shooting some of these videos now, just because I'm like really stinking overdue to actually make these videos. So, I mean, I'm just like, you know what? Just suck it up and actually start shooting these videos just because, like I said, I'm overdue to, you know, get these done and stuff. But anyway, this next movie review is about The Bodyguard. This is actually, has the late great Whitney Houston in it. I feel bad for her, just before I go into the movie itself. This movie actually made her a bigger superstar than what she already was back in 1990, what, like 92 or whatever? Yeah, 1992. Um, and it's just, you know, uh, what blows my mind, and I think this is one thing I have to say about this movie is she sings towards the end of the movie, I Will Always Love You by Dolly Parton. The thing that blows my mind about this movie is Dolly Parton does a good version of that song since she obviously wrote it. But Whitney Houston, and I think anybody that's ever heard Whitney Houston sing I Will Always Love You will agree on one thing. Whitney Houston, that's one song Whitney just knocked it out of the park when she sang it. That and the national anthem. Whitney did an amazing job that one time she sang the national anthem. This is like the other song that Whitney just sang, and it was just like pow, right in the kisser. I mean, it was just amazing, and it makes you want to cry every time you hear it. You know, they do have in the movie, like in the middle of the movie, a guy singing it, and like Whitney and Kevin Costner get into a conversation about the song, and Kevin makes a comment about it's somebody left somebody kind of song. Um, and I mean it's that's pretty accurate assessment of it. But they picked out "I Will Always Love You" for Whitney to sing it just because they were like they were going to pick. I like watched like uh like behind the scenes stuff on there because I always love watching like background stuff on these videos if they've got them. And they they talked about it. Like Kevin was like, we need like some big song for her. All right, I got the sleepies now on top of it. But yeah, I mean, it was just somebody's leaving somebody, tearjerker song, cry in your beer, kind of thing. But the movie's about Whitney Houston's this singer named Rachel Marin, who's a music movie superstar at her peak, and like she doesn't realize that there's these crazies after her, and that there's this guy that's going to kill her and all this stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable. And what really cracks me up is there's a couple of guys in here. One's Nathan Parker. He was in a couple of movies Nathan Parker was in, or well, things that I've seen is let's see, he's in Merlin season 4 of the BBC Merlin. He's also in the Eddie Murphy version of the Haunted Mansion, as Grayson, Master Grayson. And in both of those, he's kind of gotten a little chubby from this movie. But he's in there, and then the guy that played the reporter in the first Michael Keaton, Tim Burton Batman is in this movie also as uh, one of the actors. I mean, and he's a jerk in this movie too, and it's funny. I found myself like I pointed out, you know, Nathaniel Parker to my husband Tony. I said, Tony, do you reckon? I paused the movie. I said, Tony, I'm gonna pause the movie right now because I go, I need to point somebody. Excuse me, I need to point somebody out to you just because I go, I want to see if you recognize who it is. And I pointed at the guy standing next to Whitney Houston. I said, do you know that you recognize that white guy? And he's like, he looks kind of familiar. I said, that's Nathaniel Parker. And he went, you're shitting me. And I said, no. I said, that's when he was skinny. That's what I said. He's gotten fat. You know, he's put on some pounds. He's gotten chubby. I'm like, I said, not to sound mean. I go, I'm not laughing about somebody else getting chunky, okay? It happens to all of us. I mean, I shouldn't throw stones in anybody's houses, but I'm like, I'm like a total difference between like Nathaniel Parker in Haunted Mansion and Merlin, because it's like Merlin came second. I'm like, I don't know what he did between this movie and the TV show and the other movie, but he put on some weight. I mean, I don't know if it's like from not acting and being active or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it was just totally different. And it's like I watched the credits and said, Nathaniel Parker as this, and I'm like going, I started laughing. I went, oh my God. I was like, I kept thinking I knew him. I'm like, it's like, you know how you look at somebody and you're like, I know him. I had to even look, and I also had to go look it up on Wikipedia. I'm like, this is eating me up. I'm like, I gotta know who that is because I recognize his face. I recognize his voice. And I kept thinking, I know who that is. I've seen him before. And I'm like, thinking, I've seen him in other stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I did. Yeah, this was, I have to say, Kevin Costner. Sorry, I know I should be yawning and talking. This was, I think The Bodyguard was like Kevin's, like, coup de grace. It was like one of his big movies. He had I think, just gotten off of Dances with Wolves. And that one had kind of been, it's like I can't remember offhand if he made this first and then made Dances with Wolves, or made Dances with Wolves and then made this. But I think I got the impression from watching the extras on here that he had just gotten off of Dances with Wolves and it was like a stinker. Oh, sorry about this. But yeah, there's like comments made that he had just gotten off a real stinker of a movie, and he needed something to kind of help him out. I mean, and the guy that actually wrote the script for this is I think the guy's name was Mick Jackson. Mick Jackson had been, actually, now that I think about it, yeah, it was Dances with Wolves that Kevin Costner made before he made this. It was said in the extras that, like, Kevin needed to pull it together and, basically get his stuff together after shooting that movie. Because, apparently, I like Dances with Wolves, just as an aside. But this movie was actually a really good movie. And I mean, it did. It actually pulled Whitney into the 1990s. And I have to say this. You can't talk about Whitney Houston without talking about what happened to her. I watched this movie and I looked at her and I thought, I wonder what happened to that young lady that made this movie. I'm like, where did she go so wrong? What happened? I'm not going to name names and point fingers and whatever, but I look at her and think, there was a young lady that was going somewhere and was going to do something. And somewhere along the line between her making this movie and becoming like even more famous than she could shake a stick at, and what ended up happening to her. Where did she go wrong? And I felt bad for her. I mean, it's just, and I thought, there she is making this movie, and she was actually good. And I have to say this, um, if I was going to make a movie and I was given a choice of leading women between Whitney Houston and, I hate to say this person's name, but Madonna, I would, I would take 1992's Whitney Houston over Madonna anytime. Because I tell you what, Madonna sounds like a cat screeching to me. I've been listening to the soundtrack for Dick Tracy. She's okay. I mean, she's her album. Excuse me. The soundtrack for Dick Tracy is Madonna's "I'm Breathless" album. I don't know if you know that, but this is an aside. In some of those songs, Madonna sounds like a screeching cat to me. I actually had the soundtrack for The Bodyguard. I don't know what happened to it. It's one of those, I think, CDs that got lost since got married and moved out of my parents' house. I used to have it, but I could listen to that CD all day long, just about. I mean, because I just really loved Whitney's voice. And she doesn't sound like a screeching cat to me. And Whitney comes from musical dynasty. I mean, and it's just considering who her family was. I mean, it's not a surprise that she ended up having that talent. And it's just, I mean, like I said, she did an amazing job in this movie at, just singing. It's like her voice just, Queen of the Night, I Will Always Love You. I mean, it's just, like I said, just to hear her sing I Will Always Love You, especially towards the end of the movie, I mean, it just makes you want to burst into tears crying. I mean, she did such an amazing job with this movie. I mean, I do strongly recommend it, just for no other reason than to see Whitney when she was, young and before her life went south. Well, anyway, I'm going to pause here because I've got 2.5 more movies to review, all right? So hang on.